I was 18 dating a 42-year-old man. I was 18 when I met Marcus. He was 42. It wasn't supposed to be anything. I wasn't looking for a relationship, especially not with someone more than twice my age. But life has a funny way of blurring the lines between curiosity and chaos, and Marcus was exactly that. Chaos in a tailored suit, with salt and pepper hair and a voice that could stop a room. We met at an art gallery downtown. My best friend had dragged me there for a college photography exhibit. I remember standing awkwardly near the punch table, swirling cheap fruit juice in a plastic cup, when I noticed him, tall, composed, and alone. He looked like he belonged in one of the frames, not in the crowd. He approached me, not in a creepy way, not at first. He complimented the piece I was standing near, then asked what I thought of it. I didn't even remember what it looked like, but I faked a thoughtful answer. He laughed, not at me, but like he appreciated the effort. We talked for over an hour. I told him I was just starting college. He didn't ask how old I was, and I didn't say. I wasn't lying. I was legal, but I also wasn't completely honest about what a gap 24 years really was. When I finally checked my phone, I saw missed calls from my roommate. I made some excuse about needing to go, and he handed me his business card before I left. Just like that, smooth, confident, like he did it all the time. That night, I Googled him. Marcus Taylor, corporate consultant, divorced, 2 kids, 1 ex-wife, several interviews on YouTube, clean LinkedIn page, and, unsurprisingly, a reputation for being magnetic. I texted him 2 days later. Our first date wasn't even a real date. He invited me for coffee, but when I showed up, it turned into dinner, then a walk, then wine at his condo. I knew exactly what I was doing. I wanted to feel grown, desired, taken seriously, and he made me feel all of that. He didn't treat me like a kid. He listened. He told stories about business trips to Italy and rooftop jazz bars in Chicago. He made me feel like I was part of a world I never knew existed, a world I didn't belong in, but desperately wanted to. We started seeing each other every weekend. He'd pick me up in his sleek black car, open doors for me, and take me to restaurants where the menus didn't have prices. I'd wear the only pair of heels I owned and pretend I was comfortable. When people stared, I'd pretend they were jealous. When waiters called me Miss and him Sir, I'd smile like we were equals. He bought me things. Not in a transactional way, at least that's what I told myself, but because I deserve it. Dresses, perfume, books he thought I'd like. He even helped pay for one of my online courses when I mentioned I was behind on tuition. My friends were split. Some thought it was romantic. Others were horrified. "He's grooming you," my roommate once blurted. I rolled my eyes and walked away. What she didn't understand was that Marcus made me feel seen, like I mattered. But slowly, the glamour began to fade, and that's when the real story started. It started with little things. Marcus would cancel plans last minute with vague excuses. Something came up with the firm. Client dinner ran long. My daughter needed help with her essay. I never questioned it. Not at first. He was busy, important. That's what I kept telling myself. But I noticed he never invited me over if it was a weekday. Never called after 9 p.m. Never took a selfie with me, not even once. When I asked about it, he smiled that calm, rehearsed smile and said, "I like to keep things private. You know how the internet is." It sounded reasonable until it didn't. One Friday night, I waited 2 hours at a restaurant we'd agreed on. I texted, called, nothing. Just as I was about to leave, he messaged me. "Emergency at home. Can't talk. I'll explain later." He didn't explain. The next morning, he sent flowers, a massive bouquet, the kind that would make the neighbors whisper. My dorm room reeked of roses and apologies. And just like that, I forgave him. Because I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. He was the only thing in my life that made me feel exciting, special, older than I was. At school, I felt small. Just another freshman carrying books around, stressed about midterms. But with Marcus, I felt like a woman. Someone who had a man with real-world experience who chose me. But the longer it went on, the more out of place I felt. Like a museum exhibit he'd take out when he was bored. I didn't fit into his world, no matter how hard I tried. I had nothing in common with his friends. They'd glance at me like I was his niece. One of them even asked what high school I went to. High school. I wanted to vanish. Even the waiter at one restaurant asked if we wanted separate checks. Marcus laughed it off. I didn't. Worse, I began noticing how tightly he controlled conversations. He never let me ask about his ex. If I brought up his kids, he'd get quiet. "I don't want to drag you into my past," he said once. "You're too young for that." He made it sound like he was protecting me, but really, he was hiding things. Then came the night I saw a text over his shoulder. He was showing me something on his phone when a message popped up. "Are you still coming by later? The kids miss you." I froze. He saw me looking and locked the screen. His face didn't change. He didn't flinch. He simply smiled and said, "My sister. Babysitting her twins?" I wanted to believe it. I really did, but a knot twisted in my gut that wouldn't go away. That weekend, I searched his name again. Not his work profile, not his interviews. I dug deeper. That's when I found her. Angela Taylor, his ex-wife. Only they weren't divorced. At least not yet. Her Instagram had a picture from just a month ago. Him at a school recital, arms around two kids. A golden retriever sat at their feet, and she had tagged him. I stared at the image for minutes, waiting for it to vanish, for it to turn into a deepfake, a mistake, something unreal. But it didn't. It was real. The man I thought I knew was a lie, and I was his secret. I sat there, phone trembling in my hands, wondering how many other girls like me he'd done this to. How many 18-year-olds he made feel special just long enough to keep them quiet. I thought I was grown. I thought I had control. I had neither. But that was just the beginning. Ask ChatGPT that night, I didn't sleep. I kept refreshing her page, each scroll burning another hole in my illusions. There he was, smiling at family barbecues, laughing on vacation, holding hands with his actual wife. I'd been lied to, manipulated, used, but the worst part? I had loved him, or at least the version of him I knew. By sunrise, my pillow was soaked, but my tears turned to something else, anger. For the first time, I wasn't just sad, I was furious, not just at Marcus, but at myself, for trusting, for ignoring the signs, for thinking age meant stability, honesty. I decided to confront him. No more flowers, no more fake apologies. So I called. He answered like nothing had happened. "Hey, sweetheart, I was just about to text you. Dinner tonight?" I kept my voice flat. "Where exactly? Your wife's place or mine?" Silence. A beat passed. Then another. He stammered. "What are you talking about?" "Angela Taylor," I said. "Your not-so-ex-wife, your kids, the recital. You didn't even bother hiding it well." He let out a sigh. That same calm, patronizing sigh he used when he thought I was being emotional. "Look," he said, "it's not what it looks like. Angela and I are still married," I snapped. "And you brought me into this knowing exactly what you were doing. You don't understand." "No, you don't understand, Marcus. I'm not your toy. I'm not your escape from a midlife crisis." His tone shifted then. That mask he always wore cracked just enough. "You need to calm down," he said sharply. "You don't know how complicated my life is. You're too young to get it." There it was again. Too young. The words echoed like an insult now. I wasn't too young when he wanted me in his bed, but the moment I had questions, I became some clueless little girl. I hung up, blocked his number, deleted our texts, removed every photo. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, I got a message from an unknown number. Then another, different numbers, all him. "I miss you. Please just talk to me. I messed up, but you're different." Each message chipped away at the wall I was trying to rebuild. Because even when you know someone is toxic, part of you still aches for the version of them that made you feel wanted. I didn't reply, but the silence wasn't enough. He showed up at my campus. I was walking out of the library when I saw him by the parking lot. Sunglasses, hands in his pockets, acting casual, as if this was normal. My heart pounded. I looked around, suddenly aware of how many students were nearby, and how none of them knew what he was, what he'd done. "Can we talk?" he asked, stepping forward. I took a step back. "No," I said. "You're not supposed to be here." He scoffed, glancing around like I was being dramatic. "Come on, don't do this. We had something real." I stared at him. This man twice my age, who played house with one woman and fantasy with another. "I don't know what you think this was," I said coldly, "but I've woken up now." He flinched, just a little. Then I turned and walked away, fast, praying he wouldn't follow. He didn't, at least not that day. But I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I thought ignoring him would be enough, that if I stayed quiet, stayed distant, he'd give up and fade out of my life like a bad dream. But Marcus wasn't a nightmare you simply woke up from. Over the next week, the messages escalated, from fake emails to private DMs from burner accounts. At first, they were desperate, begging me to talk. Then they turned bitter. "You'll regret this. I gave you everything. You're just like the rest." Each one made me sick to my stomach. I went to my RA. She advised me to report him to campus security. I did. They took it seriously. I handed over screenshots, emails, everything. They told me to block every possible contact. They even arranged a security escort if I ever felt unsafe walking alone. It was surreal. Just weeks ago, I thought I was in love. Now, I was filing a report on a man who once kissed my forehead and called me his light. But the fallout wasn't just legal or digital, it was emotional. My friends started asking questions. My roommate found me crying in the bathroom one night, my phone clutched in my hand. I finally told her the truth, all of it. She sat with me in silence afterward, just staring. Then she said, I don't want to sound harsh, but what did you even see in him? I shrugged. He made me feel like I mattered, I whispered, like I was smart, wanted, special. She sighed. You are all of those things. He just weaponized it. That word stuck with me. Weaponized. Because he had. He used my inexperience, my loneliness, and the novelty of being pursued by an older man like tools in a kit designed to control me. And now, even though I was the one who ended it, I still felt used. Like I had been poured into someone else's mold and then discarded when I didn't fit the next version of his fantasy. I started seeing the patterns more clearly. How he'd always comment on my outfits with a smirk. You're dressing a little grown-up today, aren't you? How he'd always remind me not to act too emotional when I brought up serious stuff. How he never introduced me to anyone in his life, not even coworkers. Always excuses, always delay. It was grooming. And I hadn't seen it. One night, I got a message from an unfamiliar Instagram account. No name, just a profile picture of a woman and 2 kids. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I don't know if you remember me. I'm Angela, Marcus's wife. I think we should talk. My heart sank. I replied with shaking hands. She wasn't angry. She was devastated. She told me she found our messages while trying to sync their shared iPad. She said Marcus had a history, not just with me. He'd done this before. Young women, always barely legal, always vulnerable. I'm sorry you got caught in his web, she wrote. He's been doing this for years. He's not going to stop. Her words broke something in me. I wasn't even unique. I was just another entry in a long list of broken promises. I thanked her. We talked for a while, but eventually she went quiet. I don't know what happened between them after that. But I know what happened to me. I started therapy. It was hard. Talking about Marcus meant peeling back layers of shame I didn't know I had. But slowly, I began to understand that this wasn't love. It never was. And healing from it would take time, but it had already begun. Still, part of me stayed alert, because I hadn't heard the last from Marcus yet. A few months passed. Life, somehow, moved on. I buried myself in classes, built a small circle of friends who actually knew me, and leaned into therapy like it was my lifeline, because it kind of was. The trauma didn't vanish, but I learned how to live beside it instead of inside it. But just as I started to breathe freely again, Marcus reappeared. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was at the campus library, headphones in, researching for a sociology paper, when I saw the notification. One new email. Subject, can we talk just once? From Marcus.old, account 33@gmail.com. I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I clicked before I could stop myself. The message wasn't long. I've been thinking about you. I know I hurt you, but I still care. Just one conversation. That's all I'm asking. Please, just meet me at the cafe we used to go to. Thursday, 3 p.m. I won't reach out again if you say no. My heart raced. I hadn't expected this. I wasn't scared, just angry, the gall, the manipulation still clinging to his every word. He wasn't asking. He was baiting me, drawing on shared memories, trying to guilt me into giving him the closure he wanted. I sat with it for a long time. And then I did something unexpected. I went. Not because I missed him, not because I wanted to see him, but because I needed closure. Not the kind you write in journals or cry about in therapy. The kind you stare in the face, then walk away from forever. Thursday came. I wore no makeup, no cute outfit. I didn't want to play into anything that might confuse the narrative. I walked into the cafe 5 minutes late. He was already there. He looked older, tired, less powerful than I remembered. Maybe it was the daylight. Maybe it was the absence of illusion. Hey, he said softly, standing. I didn't offer a hug. I just nodded and sat down. There was silence for a moment. Then he began his speech. He said he missed me, that things had gotten complicated, that he was separated from his wife, that what we had was real, even if he didn't show it the right way. I listened, and then, when he finally paused, I spoke. You knew I was 18. You knew what you were doing. You isolated me, lied to me, and used me. You called it love, but it was being controlled. His face fell. I never meant to. I cut him off. I don't care what you meant. This isn't about you. I came here to say goodbye, not to forgive you, not to understand you, but to reclaim me. I stood up. He didn't stop me, just stared. I walked out of that cafe, shoulders shaking. But it wasn't fear or regret. It was release. That was the last time I ever saw him. I blocked the new email. I deleted our old messages, and for the first time, I felt clean. Not fixed, not over it, but clean. Like the weight wasn't on me anymore. Today I'm 21. I look back and I don't see a love story. I see a warning. And maybe that's why I'm telling it, because there are girls out there, smart girls, lonely girls, kind girls, who might think being chosen by an older man means they're special. But what I learned is this: if someone needs to control you to love you, it was never love in the first place. And healing? That starts the second you decide you deserve more. And I finally believe I do.